Hello. Yeah, I'm making a video today on a topic which I think a lot of people will relate to. I think it's quite important for us to understand these principles. And the specific topic I'm looking at covering today is cognitive warfare and why targeted individuals who are exposed to cognitive warfare can't agree on everything. The reason, what is the reason? So what we find is we've got a community and everyone's got their own ideas. And people are very adamant about their ideas, whether it's to do with technology or why we're being targeted or who's doing the targeting and all those kind of topics, which, understandably, these are very important things to explore. They're topics that need to be explored because we're in a very unusual situation. And as we all know, the first thing that happens when you start to pull the thread of what's all behind this is that you find that there are many different answers to each of these things, and each of them seems, well, none of them seem plausible because it seems like a ridiculous circumstance. That's why no one generally believes that it's happening. It's so out there, but the problem that we find is that there are multiple answers to these questions, and each person has their own perspectives. And I think some of them are right and some of them are wrong. And there's people out there, and what I wanted to highlight was the system that we're facing. A lot of them, people who are on an automated system, and I know a lot of people believe this is part of this is part of the thing. A lot of people believe that it's just people who are doing this, and there's no AI involvement. Some people believe there's AI involvement. Some people believe it's a cross between the two. And so what I wanted to sort of go through was the principles of cognitive warfare. So the answer, I'd say, is the reason why people can't agree on everything is because that's precisely the plan. You're being exposed to what is a cognitive warfare technique, which is many things, but includes neuroscience. It includes your perceptions. It includes understanding you. And so what I'm going to do, and then exploiting that is what I was meant to get at. So cognitive warfare, 5D warfare. Let's have a listen to one of my favorites here, and then I'll have a chat after that. And here we go.
The idea there is that I can then understand, I'm only kidding, I can understand better, relax, I can only understand better not only what makes him happy, agitated, engaged, or tired, but I can then in some way alter my discourse to be able to make him feel happier, more engaged, and less tired. In so doing, I can take the information I have about the way a brain works and I can put it to good use, practical use. Think about this. If I know what makes you tick as an individual, and I'm then able to generate patterns of how you as an individual relate to, are similar to, or different from other individuals, I may be able to then generate information that allows me to interact with you on ways that are more meaningful to our level of interaction. In other words, the more I know about what makes you tick, the more my interactions can be geared with you to make you tick the way I want you to. The way I want you to. Obviously, it takes some energy to put people into a big magnet and scan their brain. There's a whole bunch of things that are limitations of brain imaging. We recognize that. That's part of the mission. We seek to delimit those particular constraints and through the use of co-registered different forms of neuroimaging make it better. Some of these forms of neuroimaging are fieldable, operationalizable in field missions. Some of them are not. We're seeking to make these things more operationalizable, not only for military medicine to assess individuals who may have incurred brain injury and or the effects of brain injury inclusive of things like PTSD and other forms of neuropsychiatric disorders, but also to understand better how it is that our individuals are able to think through certain situations, how their brains work, and be able to classify those individuals and perhaps specify the way we train them, the way we sustain that training, and then we maximize their performance. We can use other methods as well. Genetics, biomarkers, and information. And that information is critical. One of the things you must learn is as military personnel, your demographic, biological, social, and psychological information exists in your jacket and is in fact retrievable in real time. That information becomes ever more important as we try to understand the you-ness of you. And the nature to classify that information, hold that information secure, doesn't only exist on the medical side with regard to your HIPAA records, but increasingly is becoming a concern for national security when these large-scale big databases of brain structure and function, physiology, biopsychosocial demographics become ever more available and ever more relevant to what's making you tick, what's making you talk, what's making you strong, what's making you vulnerable. And the fact that other nations, inclusive of China and Russia, are engaging in large-scale neuro-big data initiatives to be able to create large-scale databases that can join not only imaging and physiological, but as well as other forms of phenotypic and genetic data of the entirety of populations renders great power because there's great capability in that information to know where key points of strength and vulnerability may lie, and also to intercede, to inject information in some way be able to affect what appears to be your medical record, your personal record, the evidence that is you. And we can take that step to go one step further. The more I know about you and the more I know about the way your brain works as individuals, groups, communities, and even populations, the more I can utilize non-kinetic means such as informational means of narratives, iconographies, semiotics to influence your emotions and your behaviors. We can do this subliminally through computer images. We can do this more liminally through the types of engagements, interactions that we engage through psychological operations and informational operations. We can train better our human terrain teams to be able to interact with individuals in a variety of cultures, groups, settings, and ecologies to be able to improve their performance so as to be less distancing and more ameliorating.
Okay, all right. So there was a lot in that, wasn't there? I want to speak to a lot of that, but what I'm going to go through just to support this even more, I just wrote a few little lines based on this. So the power of cognitive warfare is that the system, like that we all have, and all targets who know this, who are aware of it and who are actually going through it, the system knows you. It knows you intimately. It knows your inner workings. It knows what you love, it knows what you hate, it knows when you're angry, it knows when you're sad. It knows when you go to the toilet, it knows what you eat for breakfast. It knows it knows when you're angry with someone. It knows when you think someone is up to something. It knows when you're paranoid. It knows when you're scared. It knows when you're hate-filled. It knows when you're, it knows what makes you angry. Right? Now that's a lot of power. That's so much power. And so what's cognitive warfare? It's using your information against you. Now, why can't targeted individuals agree on anything? Because the system's used your beliefs and reinforces them if they're wrong, and unreinforces them or discourages them when they're right. The aim is to make you believe the opposite of what is true. That's the whole aim of cognitive warfare, is confusion. So it knows you intimately. It knows what you believe. It knows your behavior. It knows how you make decisions. How you make decisions. Like an example. I have a belief that if it comes up in my feed on Facebook, that it's Facebook trying to manipulate me, so I go against it. It knows that I do that. And so what does it do? It starts putting stuff up there that it wants me to disregard, even though it's true. So it's gone from going, I'm going to try and convince him by putting stuff in front of him that we want him to believe, but he's a separatist, or not a separatist, a contrarian. And we know he's a contrarian, so we start putting stuff up there that we don't want him to believe so that he will believe it. See how it works? This is how curation of cognitive warfare works. And so it's so easy when you have the inner minds of someone to make them believe whatever it is you wish them to believe, whether it's true or not. I mean, in the end, the advantage is having people believe not opposite to what is true, but whatever gives them the advantage over you. And if we're the enemy to them, then they're just looking for means and ways to destroy us through our belief systems, through our own minds, using them against ourselves. This is how they break up families. This is how they create all these situations that seem out of control. It's because, well, they've got the inner world. They've got our inner world. So what can they do with that? They can do a lot. They can do a lot. So as I say, it can use tools to reinforce your incorrect beliefs. It can curate your online world, show you stuff to make you believe certain things. It can curate your world using tools such as your V2K. If it can project a voice of your next door neighbours, for example. Audio projection to make you believe something that isn't true. Early in my targeting, I didn't know what had hit me, and I went and stayed at my mother's house. And while I was in the bedroom, I heard her on the phone to the cat team going, he's lost it and we should get someone over here, we should probably take him in. She never had that conversation. That was curation. I was in a heightened, hyper-vigilant state and I was hearing everything, and they actually tried to make it so I went out, and I did. I went out and confronted her. You were just talking to, and guess what? She wasn't on the phone to anyone. And so these are examples of how they can completely break up families. They can create explosive situations. They can create dangerous situations. Let me give you this one, for example. I've even seen a patent on this. It was how to make a voice appear like it's coming from someone. So say you're in a crowded room in a pub or something, right? And there's some burly guy sitting there, and you say hi to him, and then all of a sudden, they just plant something. So they put a voice in his head of your voice going, hey, abusing him. And he goes, what did you just say? And next thing you know, you're in a dangerous situation. So this is so easy for the machine to do. This is, I think, Look Out for Charlie had an excellent video on this, where a cop had been made to hear a gunshot. They could actually make this cop believe he'd heard a gunshot. There was no gunshot. And funnily enough, one of the cops said he heard one, and the other one was like, I think I might have. I'm not sure. And so that's pretty profound, isn't it? And so this is my basic idea of what I think is the reason why targeted individuals have a plethora, this massive plethora of varied opinions on what is actually happening. I also think there is quite a variance in people's targeting. But I also believe their beliefs that they've drawn from the same weapons in some cases, the same technologies, is still very varied, because each person is being shown a slice of what they've believed. If you're believing something incorrect, it'll take that and it'll run with it. So this is why my viewpoint is we should listen to everyone, but not follow anyone. But rather always remember that anything you hear is based on a testimony that may have been a result of being misguided by the system. And so it's not something that's it's that we can't just sort of look for saviors again. It requires discernment. Discernment must be had. We must use our discernment. And we must also always keep questioning, but it's a very challenging thing, because as I've said, your thoughts are being weaponized against you. So, and you think about that in a circumstance and so I keyed this in and said, I said to ChatGPT, hey, is there any information on this cognitive warfare technique that uses the target's belief systems against them? And of course, here we go, NATO, related to UN, right? The snaky UN, the one that's trying to take over the world. Funnily enough, they do have a doctrine on cognitive warfare. Isn't that funny? And it was a warfare report written in 2020 to 2025. The idea is the human mind is the battle space, which is very much like what we were just watching. The title of that was The Brain is the Battlefield for the Future, from James Giordano. And I imagine he's had quite a hand in this. This doctrine explicitly states that modern conflict targets what? Perception, reasoning, emotions, and decision making, not just opinions. So it's your perceptions, how you reason, your emotions at the time. See how all of these things added together, and then going into an AI that can then decide to use that against you. You think someone said something. You're in an angry state, right? And then, and then what your decision making is. You usually respond in violence, then they know how to make you get into a fight. This is how it works. And then if they can also use frequency, because what are the tools this AI has? If they can use frequency to put you in a hyperactive state, then you can nearly curate fights on cue, couldn't you? I mean, that's just one example. There's one small example. There are a million examples. This can be used in, and it's on an AI. It's not a person doing it. It's not going to be the same combination of things every time. An AI is making these decisions, and it can do it, and it's seen you do these same actions every time in the same circumstance, and it knows how you're going to behave. This is the idea of the digital twin, right? Critical mechanisms. Okay. Systems aim. Assess, access, affect the cognitive space, right? So they exploit cognitive biases, reflexive thinking, so your triggers, your subconscious cues, how they work, your subconscious mind, which is our automatic reflexive thinking, where we don't think it really, we just act. Emotional triggers, same thing. So, and we all know as TIs, this is exactly what the machine does. It triggers it uses emotional triggers. It triggers us. So if you've got certain, that if they know that something causes you to arc up, then it attempts to put that in front of you. And that might just be by putting the right thing or the wrong thing, depending on which way you look at it, in your Facebook feed or in your X feed or in your YouTube videos. So that when you see it, it triggers something, right? It might be that they're not trying to make you angry. It might be that they're trying to make you aroused. So they might put pictures that make you aroused because they know it distracts you, and they know that makes you ineffective, and they're trying to disable you as a target. So the best way to do that, maybe distraction's it. Maybe it's put in your YouTube feed. When you press on YouTube, it comes up with all these movies that you've just started thinking about again because you used to watch them as a kid and you were like, oh, and so you'll sit there for hours watching that instead of doing something productive because they don't want you to be a problem to the system. And if you're someone like me who's a whistleblower or someone who's, or I wouldn't say whistleblower, but I'm speaking out about what we're going through, then they want you to be distracted. They want you to be ineffective, They want you to be disrupted. That's the word. And that's the term that the military would be using. How do I disrupt the target, right? So as it says, the goal is not to distort how a person thinks. No, the goal is to distort how a person thinks, not just what they think. So it's not changing how you think. It's distorting how you think. It's like using your own triggers to actually turn or encourage you to go down a path that it wants you to go. It's nudging. It's not like replacing your thoughts or your actions. It's nudging you down the path to the action that it wants from you. So as it says in plain terms, if a system understands your beliefs and mental patterns, it can feed inputs that cause you to arrive at their desired conclusion for yourself. All right. So that's interesting, isn't it? Weaponization of neuroscience. How so? All right, let's look. NATO-aligned research explicitly discusses convergence of neuroscience, AI, data analytics, and behavioral science used to map cognition, predict reactions, influence behavior at scale. Right? And so this is interesting. So it doesn't require direct brain reading. It assumes sufficient behavioral and psychological data approximates the mind. Fine. Yeah, they can do a lot without even having to have our brain. They can just look at you and how you respond online, for example. You can give a heap of data away, even if you don't, just by interacting. What articles do you read? What do you like? What do you not like? How long do you spend reading each thing? Like, what's your interest? What doesn't interest you? They can put stuff in front of you to see if you're interested in it. And if you don't interact with it, they know, oh, they're not interested in it. There's a lot just from you scrolling that they can harness. Okay, cognitive attacks, formal definition, 2026 research. So this is very recent. Operations that target human minds aiming to manipulate perceptions and beliefs to affect decisions and actions. So, success is measured by distorted judgment. This is when they know they've won, right? This is when they know their system's working. Your distorted judgment, delayed decisions, or induced behavior. Did they distort your judgment? Did they change your judgment so it was wrong to make you think something that is when it isn't? Did they stop you from doing something? Like, oh, I'm going to write this article now. Oh, and ended up distracted. That's a win. They won. Oh, that thing always works to get him distracted. All I have to do is put, I'm in the middle of an article and I'm like, oh, I need that YouTube video to add into my article. I jump into YouTube and I've go to search for it, but there's something right in front of me and I'm like, look at that thing. It's like they've waited to put that thing that they know I'm going to click on. And I'm like, oh, I need to do this article, but I should just watch that. And then 2 hours later, I'm on the 4th video and I haven't got my article done, right? That's cognitive warfare. See how easy and simple it can be? Of course, it gets much more interesting when it starts to be your inner world, your brain and your family or your friends involved. That's when it gets even more crazy, isn't it? So yeah, it's essentially belief exploitation as a weapons system. Psychological warfare doctrine, older but direct. Traditional doctrine already states. Targets, belief systems, values, motivation and reasoning. Right, they target our belief systems, values, motivations and reasoning. But cognitive warfare goes further by saying change what you believe to use what you already believe against you. So that's pretty clear, isn't it? It's like they used to want to change it, like, because they wanted everyone to think the same thing. So that's sort of like indoctrination, brainwashing, the idea of getting everyone to think along the same lines. Now they've got individuals all thinking different things and they know what those things are. So why not just use the ones who want to think like that? They can think like that, but use that. So what's the classic of that? This is how you create riots. This is how you create the left and the right. This is how you create the two wings so that they can butt heads, This might be how you curate, unrest and stuff in a society, but it can also happen in a family. What if, if the machine puts suggestion in someone's head, or what if you've got two people in a house and they're watching YouTube and they can put a video up that one person's going to believe in, the other one's going to completely reject? Then that could create a tiff. Something as simple as that, right? So that's interesting. Reflexive control. So feed the target information tailored to their beliefs. So they make a decision that feels self-derived, but it benefits the attacker. Yeah. The target becomes the agent of their own manipulation. This aligns most perfectly with... Okay, so here's a classic, right? I'm not saying one way or another, but methylene blue. Let's say this. And this is the same with a lot of these remedies. They were all seeded into our community. They were seeded into the truther community, the health community, those people looking for the detox community, the ones that wanted to get rid of the nanobots, right? Whether they're there or not, whether you believe in the remedies or not, whatever. That has happened. Now, some of these are detrimental. Some of these remedies are detrimental. And I've found more often than not, the ones that seem to just come up everywhere in your feed. Oh, isn't it funny? Oh, so-and-so is talking about that as well. Oh, someone else mentioned that too. Oh, this isn't a coincidence. It wasn't just a lucky coincidence that you both got onto it at the same time. This is seeding of information that is detrimental to you, but you believe is for you. You believe is good for you. Guess what? But it's not. It helps the attacker. So methylene blue might have actually helped them to image your body clearer and the brain, like, because they can see it bounces all the various RF through your body and allows them to do basically a full body scan. This is what some people suggest. That's just an example of one of this sort of tactic being used. What else do they do? Remember, this is NATO official documentation, this sort of idea. Like, this is how they actually look at things. Documented cognitive vulnerability. When confronted with opposing info, people often strengthen their original beliefs instead. Reverse psychology. It's useful, isn't it? And they know whether you're susceptible to reverse psychology. If you're a contrarian, then they have to change their tactic, and they know that you'll probably go the other side. Just because someone's saying one thing, you'll go the opposite. Interesting way of doing things. Trigger identity-linked beliefs, introduce selective contradictions, cause confusion, emotional reaction, and deeper entrenchment. So it's forcing you to take your side, and so that's very interesting. Across all sources, the same structure appears. So it's the operational loop. This is the real mechanism. Profile the target. Know their beliefs, fears, identity, and biases. Build a cognitive model, how they interpret reality, decision-making patterns, how you make your decisions. And then inject stimuli, information, narratives, and emotional triggers into your everyday through, well, if you're on the web a lot, these big corporations, the same ones who are complicit in this warfare, including your YouTubes and your Facebooks and your X and your da-da-da-da-da, right? It's funny that those little things will start coming up in your feed. Those things designed to lead you either to their way, so that you behave in a way that matches them. It might be news. It might be to rile you up. Maybe they want you as a dissenter. They want you to get angry. They want you to start talking about Israelis, or they want you to start talking about Muslims, or they want you to get angry at these groups. It's a mechanism used to turn you into a patsy. A classic would be, anti-Semitism thing. It's like, okay, have your own opinions, whatever. That doesn't matter about what I'm saying here. If you introduce a law to make it illegal, and then you incite it in people, you're trying to get people arrested through a law that you've just created. Think about it. Just something to think about. Okay, so let's go from here. Let the target self-generate outcomes. Decisions feel internal and influence becomes invisible. Yeah, because you can't blame the outside for this. If you've made it your own, you even go to yourself. So you doubt your own, but you doubt that you've been persuaded yourself. You go, no, I came to that conclusion myself. So it makes the real perpetrators, the ones doing this, it makes them look innocent at the same time. It's the best kind of warfare. This is the kind of warfare we're in. And this is why targets doubt themselves all the time. Because they believe that they have come to their own conclusions that have ended up being detrimental. Oh, I did that to myself. They want you to think that. But have some responsibility, obviously, for ourselves. But I think have discernment above all. We need to have discernment. Yeah, and so the bottom line, using a person's beliefs against them, exploiting internal cognitive structures, shaping decisions indirectly is known as cognitive warfare, cognitive attacks, or reflexive control. So not explicitly, this is just, we know that there's a lot of evidence anyway about this reading inner thoughts and all this sort of stuff, and even the imagery and stuff coming out of the brain. So obviously ChatGPT doesn't agree with that, but that's not surprising. So that was basically my main point I wanted to make in this. And yeah, cognitive warfare, psyops, like individualized psyops, right? It's not surprising everyone thinks it's different. I wanted to come up with another analogy in this. If these weapons have the ability that we're facing, these weapons have the ability, like I can feel the electricity or EMF coming through my hands, but maybe that's not what I'm getting. And I believe that to be so. And when I hold my hand out to scan, I can go, and it'll go to a point and I'll be like, yeah, it's there. Now say that's not what I was feeling. Say it wasn't that. I think it is, right? But what if it was just the machine turning on that feeling in my hand? Like, what if they could just make you feel that regardless, right? Because I can think my way to making that happen as well. I can just think and it goes the same feeling, this feeling of electricity in the hand. So if they wanted to think it's coming from top down, imagine it, when you hold your hand up, it'll just switch it on. And they'll be like, yeah, no, it's definitely coming from there. Do you know what I mean? See how the machine could use your thoughts, because it knows that that's what you're thinking. When you're doing that, it's like, why is he doing that? He's doing it because he thinks there's something coming from there. I'm pretty sure what I'm feeling, because I can feel that. But that's an example of how they could sway people to think that something is when it isn't. That's what I was getting at. Anyway, that's all I'm going to cover today. I think I've spoken for long enough. And yeah, I hope you are doing well. Big love and out.